Now joining us is Constance Gadell-Newton. She is a candidate for governor in Ohio. I really appreciate her and her background and her experience and her policy positions, but I'm not sure that I'm fully supportive. How's that for an intro? So, Constance, let's talk it through, okay? First of all, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that the Green Party does not get a lot of outlets, and I think that it's really important that the audience hears from everybody and knows what their choices are. So,
thank you.
Yeah, first let's talk about your policy positions and why you're running. So you are running on the Green Party ticket, not the Democratic ticket. So talk to us about why you think you'd make a better governor for Ohio.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Constance Gadell-Newton. I'm running as a Green for governor of Ohio. And as a Green Party candidate, we do not accept corporate donations. We really are just trying to represent the people of Ohio, the people in our state. And so we're running, as a Green, I get to run a campaign based on my principles and my truly held beliefs because I'm not beholden to those corporate interests. So we're running to promote universal health care for workers' rights and the fight for 15. And so many other things. We would like an immediate moratorium on fracking with a super fund for workers to transition to green energy and to promote locally owned green energy co-ops and other locally owned businesses in Ohio. To end school segregation in Ohio, which still exists because schools are funded based on property taxes. So we'd like to do away with that system. And for a lot of criminal law reforms, such as decriminalization and ending the private prison industry in Ohio that's exploiting Ohioans.
So, Constance, that all sounds great, and I'm totally in favor of that. I love that you're running without corporate PAC money, and that means you'll be accountable to the people. So where's my issue? Well, this is definitely not true in all races, and I think the mainstream media generally does a terrible job of covering the Green Party, and all they'll ever ask is this question. But in this race, I actually think it is a relevant question. You've got Richard Cordray, who was the former head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, who's running as a Democrat. That's a pretty solid progressive in a state that really could go either way, and the Democrat could easily lose that race. So why run against Cordray?
Well, there are a couple reasons. First of all, I'm the only candidate who is pushing this agenda that is really the people's agenda. It's an activist-informed campaign. So we're listening to people who are working on these issues like SPAN, the Single Payer Action Network. And also, I would just say that because of the corporate interests that both of the candidates have, they are compromised and they're not able to really fully represent the people in the best way possible. So, for instance, an article just came out in the Cincinnati Enquirer that talked about how Mike DeWine, as Attorney General, has given contracts to a lot of his donors, and that Richard Cordray, who was actually his predecessor in that position, also has offered a lot of contracts to people who've donated to their campaign funds. These are people who are collecting debts from the people of Ohio. So I think that it's absolutely relevant, and that as a Green Party candidate, I'm able to provide the people another choice in our broken democracy and our broken two-party system that really hasn't represented the people's interests very well. The Republicans and Democrats have not represented women well. They haven't represented people of color. They haven't represented the peace movement well. And so that is something that I provide as an alternative so that the voters can have a voice and a choice in our democracy.
So is Cordray still taking corporate PAC money?
Yes, I believe so. I don't believe that's changed.
Okay. So on the other hand, okay, let me just ask it as a question. Would you concede that he did a great job at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in holding banks accountable?
I can't really speak to that. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. So just last thing, that's a logical chain of questioning here, and I'm sure you're used to it. And again, I'm sorry, I'm sure that this is all that anybody ever asks you, but in this race, it is relevant. Are you worried that taking away votes from Cordray would lead to Mike DeWine, who's clearly worse, being elected governor of Ohio?
I understand the concern there, but what I would say is that there are so many unaffiliated voters in Ohio. Only about 30% of people actually vote in a good year. So I think that if the Democrats cannot get the votes that they need, then they need to change something. And we're really reaching out to unaffiliated voters and people across the political spectrum and bringing these new ideas, these alternatives. What we see right now is so much polarization in the political debate. So you see the gun debate, the abortion debate, all these, and there's so much polarization between the left and the right. And I believe that we're really able to bring an alternative voice and think freely about those issues and really try to represent all Ohioans. So that is my goal. I'm certainly not trying to steal votes from the Democrats. And I think that it's really their responsibility to court those voters themselves. I do provide an alternative, and we're really trying to represent all Ohioans in this race.
Yeah, look, I would never frame it that way. Everybody's got to earn the votes. Nobody's stealing anybody else's votes. It's just a question of, picking your battles, but this is your battle. So you get to make that call. Let's talk about some of your past experience. You did advocacy on behalf of prisoners facing supermax solitary confinement. And that's an issue I care deeply about. I think what we do in solitary confinement is literally a crime against humanity. So can you tell us about what you learned from that experience?
Yes, there are so many criminal issues and prison issues that I've become aware of over my years of activism. So solitary confinement in particular is a really cruel and unusual punishment. It's very isolating to the individual. Sometimes it is used if someone is just a troublemaker within the prison system or has certain political views, but it's a very cruel means of punishment. In addition to that, I would just say that I do oppose the death penalty, and as governor, I would not sign off on death warrants. And I believe that one of the biggest problems in our society right now, and I am a defense attorney, so I'm a bit biased, is just the over-criminalization of so many things in our society. There's the drug war, which has really that's been politically motivated, and the incarceration complex, the prison industrial complex that's for profit that we have in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. And if you're elected governor, would you institute single payer in Ohio?
For health coverage, yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, Constance, talk to me about your pathway to victory. So what's the battle plan to get enough votes so that it's not just a moral victory, but an actual victory where you can get actually more votes than the Democratic or Republican candidates?
Thank you. Yes. Well, as a third-party candidate and a candidate with multiple candidates running, we could win with as little as 34% of the vote. So we just want to remind people, yes, I'm aware that I'm an underdog, but this is also a pioneer's path forward in politics. And we're really just trying to represent all Ohioans. I have a great team of people supporting me, Greens and new Greens from across the state. And we have a lot of true believers, a lot of young people who are willing to put themselves out there and make sacrifices so that we can make some headway in politics. And create a pathway to victory for me and for other candidates in the future that are Greens, that are independents, that are really trying to offer people more choices in our political system. I mean, what I see really is that the party establishment and the Democrat and Republican parties are choosing the candidates through gerrymandering, you know, with backroom deals, deciding who's going to run an unopposed race for judge. Sometimes, you know, all these things that happen that really undercut our democracy and don't allow the people to actually decide who's the best candidate. So,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
So we're out of time, but I thought for a second there you said bathroom deals instead of backroom deals, but that would probably be more fitting, right? The website is constanceforohio.com, constanceforohio.com. You can check it out there. Constance Gadell-Newton, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and what you do.
Thank you.